celebrated the life of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a national treasure and champion of freedom, and those foot soldiers who prepared him and who walked with him. We showed him our love.
Arrested Thursday night, December 1st. Next day, Friday, Mrs. Robinson and the Women's Political Council pass out the leaflets. Saturday, the black ministers meet and argue about the idea of a one-day boycott. You know, because a lot of them have mortgages with the banks downtown, they're worried, but they're helped to make a decision when Mr. Nixon, who is back from one of his runs on the sleeping car porters, he's standing in the meeting and he calls the men cowards. He says, "You all have been holding on to the apron strings of the women of this community. It's time for you to be men." Then Reverend King stands up and says he is not afraid. He becomes the leader.
Martin Luther King was he was a man of courage and of principle. Martin Luther, I tell you what, he was a visionary, and he came up with a plan that using nonviolence to make it work for everybody's benefit.
Martin Luther King what he means to me, he is just a figure that I've been raised to know his name, and he has just been such a part of the history that I've learned, and I know him as like this incredible figure of American history, and I can't even imagine what the world would be without him. It's hard to think about that.
Well, Martin Luther King to me just is a symbol of American independence and diversity, and yeah, he just symbolizes something that's really important to me, such as like immigration and diversity in the community.
I grew up in Rwanda, and Martin Luther King, we heard about him on TV. We heard about the struggle that he pushed for, and the civil rights movement that he led. Coming to the U.S., I guess I would say that I got to see in action how his efforts have helped to change the society here.
Well, Martin Luther King means a amazing person and effort for human equality in the United States and around the world. We're fortunate to live in this great country, and he was a major part in making it a better place for all of us.
The black people of Montgomery were so well organized that they transported 7,000 to 8,000 people every day for almost the entire 381 days of the boycott. So there are also black cab companies, and until a city injunction comes down to stop them, they're carpooling folks who need to get their jobs to get to their jobs, and they're doing that at minimal fares. Also, there were dispatch offices in 12 black churches in the Montgomery area, and the main church, which held all of a lot of the mass meetings, was Holt Street Baptist Church. And so those dispatch offices are coordinating volunteers. So for example, if you're Joanne Robinson and you just got off work, she called the boycott office and she'd say, "You can have me and my car for the next 4 hours. Where do you want me to go?" And unusual though they were, there were also a few white supporters. Two main ones were Virginia Durr and her husband, attorney Clifford Durr.
What Martin Luther King means is what a lot of the other people as well mean in the movement. So the people who most affected me were actually the people I worked with in Mississippi and Alabama. And those folks were people like Herbert Lee, who lost his life because he was killed for trying to register people to vote. People like Mrs. Faneuil, who was beaten very badly but continued to work to try and register black voters. So a lot of the people that most affected me were the people who a lot of folks don't know about, but were so important in terms of increasing black political and economic and social power in this country.
Black passenger in 1955. You would board the bus at the front, you would pay your dime, and then you would have to deboard and go outside to get in the back because you weren't supposed to pollute the white section, right? Now, sometimes it'd be raining, sometimes the driver would pull off before you got onto the seat. So all of this is what they're saying we want to stop. Now, when you got on at the back, what you would see is the white section in front, the colored section in the back, and then this kind of gray area, which is where black people could be seated as long as no white passengers getting on the bus. As soon as any white passenger was standing, then that sign moved back.
A lot of our youth today, they don't have a clue what had transpired in the earlier years and what it takes to get here. They take it for granted that this was one of their God-given rights, which wasn't. It was earned through a lot of blood and tears to make this happen.
I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream.
He made the dream begin, and he made it go so far that it's still there. You can always improve, but I think he got probably almost the furthest someone's ever gotten in just a dream.
Yeah, I agree with Kyla. I think that he definitely was the start, but there's always more to improve on, and we could always benefit in more diversity and continue his dream.
People talk about Dr. King and his dream. In fact, it was the purpose and the goal of many people, many activists in the civil rights movement.
We have an African-American president, and we've come a long way. There's been a lot of progress, but obviously there's still plenty of racial inequality in this country and a lot more work to do. So hopefully the next 50 more years brings more progress. So we'll see.
There's still a lot more work that needs to be done, especially on the policy level. You still see a lot of African Americans and just minority people still in positions where they are they can't get jobs, or they don't have access to proper education or proper health care. But I guess things are changing, with Obamacare and all that. But it's I would say there's still a long way. There's still a long way to go.
I kind of hope people don't keep talking about the dream, because what Dr. King is talking about and what the movement is talking about is really economic justice at the end. And it's a much larger issue. And so what Dr. King is saying in '68 is not, I have a dream. He's saying what we need is a radical redistribution of economic power. That's what Dr. King is saying in '68. So that's, to me, the most important message.
And place it in a safe place amongst your most prized possessions, and record your thoughts in a journal, snail mail, text message, or an email post to Facebook, get LinkedIn, Instagram, you're in Face Chat, Pinterest, tweet, tweet, tweet. Whatever the means, let the people in your life know, especially the children, what went on here today.